Hey shy people, what is your worst experience? I wouldn't say this is my worst experience, but it's amusing to me. I was setting up a network in a small satellite office and was still working when the last other person left. It was nighttime and they didn't see me or know I was still there, so they turned out all the office lights as they left. I left them off because I enjoy working in the dark and do it often. After like an hour, another worker came back into the office to do something or another, and rather than have to say hi, I opted to hide under the desk I was at in an open office as a 35-year-old man. I'm not sure why I did that, but luckily they didn't notice me and left again after about 15 minutes. Putting a year's worth of confidence into a job interview just to be the quiet one after you get the job. The anxiety, dude. As a kid, my shyness was crippling. I got locked in the toilet in school, started yelling/crying, and the teacher had to remove the lock to get me out. The whole class was standing behind him, looking at me. My outgoing mother announcing to everyone how shy I am. I was at a friend's house. His parents used to scare me. The dad had a thick Asian accent, and due to my nerves, I guess I wasn't paying attention. Didn't realize the dad was full on asking how I was, and I just stood there awkwardly. I thought he was speaking to his son in Cantonese. I still think about this. I never corrected my boss when she mixed up my name on the first day. I had already introduced myself to some people by my real name. The other half of people my boss introduced me to called me another. I felt too shy to correct her in front of the group. It just led to more awkward conversations, as the two names were completely different. In my high school Spanish class, some kid screamed, "Do you ever talk at me?" in front of the entire class. Super embarrassing at the time, but hilarious to look back on. Edit, for those curious. I said nothing in response. If only I could go back in time. Had a similar incident in freshman science class in high school. Hardly ever talked, and I guess the teacher somehow got it in her head that I was mute. She came up to me early one morning just before class with a sign language interpreter and asked if I needed participating in class. Looked her dead in the eye and said I can talk. She turned about 7 different shades of red before telling the interpreter they wouldn't be needed. I was in elementary and took a bus home each day. I missed my stop and I was so terribly shy and quiet the bus driver didn't hear me. He went on to pick up high school students and didn't notice I was still on the bus. The high school students were so sweet and kind. They alerted the bus driver and he took me home. My mom was freaking out by the time I got home. Went to a party. Guy I've never met walks up to me, shakes my hand, and says hello. What's your name? Where were you born? Where will you die? What's in between? Not letting go of my hand the whole time. I completely locked up. Had no idea what to say. I'm a bit shy when first meeting people, so after getting to know me, I often hear, "When I first met you, I thought you were such a bitch." Cool. While going to college, I interned for the state's largest business development corporation. In a meeting with C-suite executives, the top dog was just making friendly conversation before we got started and asked me what classes I was taking. To set the picture, I'm just the peon note taker and would never expect anyone to even notice that I was there, let alone put me on the spot with a long table of successful professionals staring at me. I blacked out. Zero brain function. I mumbled a few inaudible grunts and ums before having no choice but to admit that I couldn't remember. Oh my dog. I wanted to die. The looks of confusion and the awkward century that it took to switch topics amongst themselves still haunts me before bed. Going to a crowded party with one friend who really wanted to drag you along but then disappears. Where my damn panic button. My birthday happened during vacation from school and I never failed a subject, so I didn't celebrate with my class before until my senior year in college, where we got vacation classes in preparation for the board exams. It was a joint class of 2 sections and our class president took it upon herself to surprise me. Boy was I surprised. I was sitting in front of the class as always, designated seats, and the president announced it, and the whole room sang happy birthday to me. I'm not kidding when I say I sank in my chair until half my upper body was gone and wished the ground would swallow me whole. Mandatory speech class when I was a freshman in college. I'd do the thing then go back to my dorm and throw up. Really freaked out my roommate, who I barely spoke to. 5 speeches that semester. It was a nightmare. I really ducking hate public speaking with a passion. For my speaking exam in year 10th I was allowed to do it with just the teacher and a couple friends of my choice to be the audience. Then in year 11th we was told they lost our results, so we had to do it again. I cried in class, but was too shy to tell anyone why. Had to do it in front of the whole class, but was allowed to just stand at my desk. Didn't help much, and I still hate it. I was in a group therapy session as a kid, like maybe 14. I really had to go to the bathroom, but we weren't allowed to during the session. I was sorta pulled up in the center of the room. Not like emotional or anything, just sitting comfortably hugging my knees cause all the spots on the couch were taken. Some girl had just finished telling a story of her abuse. She was crying, and there was no other sound. Was sort of that awkward, but respectful silence that fills the space when you wanna be supportive, but saying anything at all would somehow seem inconsiderate. It was into this yawning void that I farted. I knew it was coming. I'd been staving off the gurgling in my stomach for some time now. It'd broken into a sweat already with the sheer effort of will to delay the inevitable. It was no use. I tried to discreetly shift my weight and maybe muffle the sound. I failed. This was neither silent nor deadly. It effortless shattered the silence like sledgehammer vs a Christmas ornament. Another moment of silence swallowed the sound, but it was a void of disbelief. Then some kid yelled as loud as they could, "Jen farted!" Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. And the entire room collapsed into helpless laughter while I promptly turned to stone and died on the spot. When you talk and people say things like, "Oh, I didn't know you could talk," or "This is the first time I hear you talking." In the same vein as this, when I was a shy kid instead of a shy adult, I'd spend quite a while in my bedroom in order to get personal space away from my family, who are all chatterboxes. Almost every time I finally came out into the family room for a little bit of socializing, everyone would always make a huge deal of seeing me. "I didn't even know you were here. Wow, she's socializing. She's out of her cave." And so many other things always said so derisively. Always made me just want to go back into my room to hide. My shy buddy hated ordering coffee at the Starbucks in the Barnes & Noble bookstore. They cannot accept your order and take your money. They had about 6 questions they have to ask first. She couldn't stand it. "I'd like a medium coffee." Them. "Do you want light roast or dark roast?" "We don't have medium. We have tall." "Okay. Do you need space for cream?" "What's your name?" "Are you part of a bookstore club?" "Are you part of the Starbucks points?" I'm not sure if I'm remembering it right, but I think at least once she panicked and walked away mid-interrogation. Had a high school buddy who was sworn to silence to most people, even teachers. Yet a select few kids he'd talk to. Funniest guy I've ever met. Said he's gone full years without saying a word to his own teachers. Graduating basic training and having to walk across the stage. Stop at the MIG. Execute a left face turn. State my name in the MIG with a short pause between first and last name as a cue for the next row of guys to walk up. I completely ducked it up in front of everyone. Went to shake my drill sergeant's hand as a formality of the ceremony, and he whispered to me, "Way to duck that up in front of everyone. Dipshit. Duck off back to your seat." I ducking hate public speaking. G. I went from being the anxiously shy kid to the anxiously talkative person that has no filter and people find annoying. The worse the social tension gets. The more I talk, the worse I make it. The more I talk. I had a roommate, and I lived with for 2 months while I subletted a room. I used to talk to him for hours, like every night after work. In my head, I'd justify thinking I was overthinking it. That he doesn't hate me. Why would he talk to me for so many hours? But then again, we never hung out outside the apartment. We are both busy. That's it. He's never called me back or talked to me since I moved out. Kinda hard to dismiss that he thought you were crazy and only appeased you because he thought you would murder him in his sleep explanation. Well, anyway, it turns out I can avoid being psychotically talkative and later screaming into my pillow regretting it if I just avoid people. Someone took my order from the shelf at the online order station at Chipotle, and I waited 45 minutes after the time it was supposed to be done before saying anything because I didn't wanna be rude. Not the literal worst thing to happen to me, but it is what stopped me from going to Chipotle. Best man speech in front of 100 plus people. I knew it was coming almost a full year in advance and agonized over it for basically that entire year leading up to it. I recited it at least 1,000 times in my head. It was sheer terror when I went up to do it. That said, in the end, somehow, I actually did pretty well with it. I received a lot of compliments and they seemed genuine. So the experience itself wasn't the worst. Maybe just the time leading up to it. Having a group of people sing happy birthday to you. My husband got me to go to a party with him at our friend's house. Got there. Friend hugged me hello. And then said wow you smell really good. And then I swear to God everyone got up and went I want to smell. And I was surrounded by people sniffing me seconds after walking into a party. I wanted to die. It wasn't even perfume or anything, it was my hair oil. If I could afford therapy this would definitely come up. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.